Thank you, Reggie, for that kind introduction, and it's great to be here with other members of the Virginia Early Childhood Foundation Board. Before I begin, I'd like to recognize Tom Tuning. Tom is with us today. Many of you may know Tom as the former Chief Financial Officer of Dominion, but probably more importantly, he's a past chair of the Virginia Early Childhood Foundation and was probably one of the most outspoken and early advocates for this cause. I know I would not be here, and probably many of us wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Tom's voice. So Tom, we thank you for that. Thank you. As Reggie said, I'd also like to thank Barry for your leadership of the State Chamber of Commerce. The work that you all do is terrific, and it's great to partner with you all here at this forum or Blueprint, any place that we can. You all really do a great job. I think the partnership of the VECF and the State Chamber of Commerce underscores what John so clearly spoke about, and that is the direct link between a strong start in the early years and our economic vitality. I want to thank John for being here today and for driving home the importance of smart investments in developing our human capital. We increasingly recognize that early childhood education as a long-term investment in our workforce and therefore our state's economic competitiveness. I work with thousands of Dominion, Virginia Power colleagues, and each one of them performs challenging work to keep our economy functioning around the clock. I can vouch for the importance of having a skilled workforce and how challenging it can be to find qualified people as we recover from the Great Recession and amidst the ongoing wave of baby boomer retirements. Through the State Chamber's Blueprint Virginia work, we recognize that a highly talented and educated workforce is the linchpin of maintaining and elevating a competitive economy here in Virginia. Making early and strategic investments today will help us stop the loss, the leakage, if you will, of the human potential all along the workforce pipeline, starting with early childhood. The stark reality in Virginia is that we compete with states such as Florida and Texas with much larger populations. And we also compete with nations whose populations exceed ours by nearly 4 times, and I'm talking about India and China. Neither the United States nor the Commonwealth can afford to waste human potential. It's not a moral assertion, it's a practical one. I'm always mindful of what Professor Fuller told us during the Blueprint Virginia due diligence, and that is the jobs will go where the well-prepared workers are. That is why the Virginia Chamber of Commerce's Blueprint Virginia effort focused so heavily on workforce and education. Those two issues are intertwined and are critical to our success. If we're to have the best workforce for the 21st century, we've got to get started. The reality is, over the next 10 years, Virginia will need more than 2 million workers to support the state's economy, provide our essential services, and to promote the growth that we all expect and are working to deliver. As a first step to evaluate what we are currently doing to make sure that our youngest citizens have the opportunity to start school and ready to learn and to reach their full potential and be productive members of the workforce, we have some work to do, some analysis to do. The Virginia Early Childhood Foundation is at the forefront of the state's public-private efforts to prepare our youngest citizens for school and for life. We know that the private sector is actively engaged at the adult end of the workforce pipeline. Apprenticeships, training, curriculum development are all vital approaches. But it's equally, if not more important, for the private sector to be involved at the start of the pipeline, or for that matter, for what goes into it. We want to make sure that everyone is at the table, the state and the private sector, to help solve the problems and discern promising new directions and approaches by bringing entrepreneurial know-how and expertise to the state's public system and structure. Seeing the need to spend smarter, the Virginia Early Childhood Foundation is conducting an analysis of all the funds that flow through the state's budget related to young children to promote their health, to provide family support, and to deliver early learning. We all know that sound policies and good decisions are informed by a clear understanding of the investments we are making today, the value that these investments are providing, and what future investments may need or may be required. The spirit of this effort was underscored by every state agency and program voluntarily providing the support, the data, and the analysis. We're grateful for their help. I'm proud that the Virginia Early Childhood Foundation has taken the lead on this effort to ensure that our policymakers and state leaders have the data and insights to inform good decisions about wise investment. And while we're still double-checking the numbers and analyzing the data collected, I can tell you this. There is $1.4 billion in Virginia's budget for early children from birth to age 5. Nearly 65% of that $1.4 billion is spent on health-related programs. About 9% of the $1.4 billion is spent on programs that support early care and education. Through this fiscal scanning process, the Foundation is pinpointing the tough questions that need to be asked and achieving a deeper understanding of the state's budget. The goal here is to be research-based, data-driven, and more importantly, outcome-focused. Foremost, we should address whether our spending reflects the need to provide a quality workforce for our future. While it's true that much of the total budget for children birth to age 5 is for mandated services, we must be smart with the balance. Significant amounts of money are being spent across multiple agencies to support children from birth to age 5 and their families. And while we would all agree this is very important work, it's imperative that these agencies, education, social services, health, and behavioral health, communicate with each other and collaborate. To be efficient and effective, agencies need a better understanding of what each is doing to serve children and their families, and this budget analysis is a solid start down that path. With these fiscal analysis, we can begin to answer some important questions about Virginia's early childhood system. Questions such as, what dollars are allocated to services and programs for young children and their family? What is the source of these funds, and are they being used to the maximum effect? How might we best leverage local, state, federal, and private funds to meet unmet needs? This type of thorough examination can help us get the information that we need to make informed decisions and nurture partnerships among state entities pursuing similar goals and objectives. While it is imperative to examine our current public funding, there also needs to be better alignment between discretionary funding, those funds for which we can choose how to spend, and the need to better serve the most at-risk children in Virginia. We can all agree we cannot solve everything with a government program, and we shouldn't try. We don't need to boil the ocean. Government has a role to play in early childhood, but so does the business community, the faith community, the nonprofit sector generally, as do parents and guardians. As business leaders, we know that innovation drives opportunity and that the best decisions are data-driven ones. We also know that complex problems often require more than one solution. There is not a silver bullet to early childhood readiness. For example, 1 year of pre-K is not going to inoculate a child from the challenges down the road, especially if that year of pre-K is not a high-quality experience, as many in my hometown or my home state of Tennessee recently learned. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't make the investments in the programs to better prepare and support healthy development of at-risk children. However, these investments need to be in high-quality programs, as John said, like home visiting and child care, and pre-K programs that have accountability and performance measurements in place. Insisting on quality and accountability in our early childhood investments is what the Virginia Early Childhood Foundation is all about. Today's forum is an opportunity to start a conversation about aligning resources and making strategic investments to ensure we have a strong future for Virginia's workforce. Looking ahead, I see opportunities to innovate and strengthen our education and workforce systems. Many of these priorities have been outlined in the Chamber's Blueprint Virginia Plan. The Virginia Early Childhood Foundation strategies are aligned with Blueprint and the recently launched Go Virginia's framework, which is Virginia's initiative for growth and opportunity. The Foundation's business-driven leadership is promoting more public-private partnerships, increased collaboration among business, education, and community leaders. The Foundation is pushing for strategic investments that will test new models, incubate innovation, and incentivize local and regional solutions for improving school readiness. These include awarding competitive grants, targeting school priorities, state priorities, such as mixed delivery of public preschool and high-risk school communities. Promoting quality child care through improved professional development and management training. And partnering with Virginia's community colleges to improve the skills and credentials of early childhood educators. There is widespread consensus among the business community and growing bipartisan consensus among public officials that investments in early childhood are the best long-term investments we can make in our workforce, our educational system, and in the overall well-being of the Commonwealth. Now, we're beginning to see some important progress in one of the most important areas, and that's school readiness for young children. VECF monitors key indicators of school readiness. One of those key indicators is the number of children who repeat a grade in the span kindergarten through third grade. Many of you have heard this statistic. VCF reported that the annual cost of children repeating grades K through 3 costs Virginia $78 million a year. Let me say that again. We spend $78 million a year on repeat grades K through 3. That's a staggering cost, especially when you consider that research tells us that early grade repetition is not effective in supporting school readiness. Now here's some good news. When we last looked at the data, the number had dropped to about approximately 62 million. Still a staggering sum. There are likely many factors that account for this reduction, but it is an important indicator that we are beginning to move in the right direction. This event, I believe, is a call to action for all of us, for the public-private partnerships, to find solutions that will yield the kind of results and returns, such as reduction in early grade repetition, that will benefit the entire Commonwealth. We're beginning the important process of examining and answering the essential questions of what is and what isn't working in Virginia. It's therefore important that we all take steps to ensure a smart beginning and a smart investment for every child. It's really been my pleasure to be with you today, and I look forward to working with you and with the Virginia Early Childhood Foundation to advance this cause so that every child gets an opportunity to start school ready and ready to learn. Thank you.